The dream is over. Assuming Sebastian Vettel doesn't go and win a truncated 2020 championship, and wouldn't that be a sensational story, his marriage with Ferrari lasted 6 years but failed to yield the Formula 1 title that was demanded of it. A lot has happened in those 6 years. The organisation that recruited Vettel from Red Bull in the first place isn't staffed by the same people, and the landscape at Maranello is very different. Ferrari has been on a roller coaster journey itself during Vettel's time there, and there's no question that the goings-on behind the scenes at times played their part in not getting the best out of their star driver. Unfortunately for Vettel, some of that writing was on the wall before he'd even changed into his red kit. Before we get into what went wrong, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments how you would sum up Vettel's time at Ferrari. Vettel was Luca di Montezemolo's chosen one, but di Montezemolo was gone before Vettel even arrived. The aggressive Sergio Marchionne-Maurizio Arrivabene axis that followed could hardly have been any less suited to Vettel's personality, and made it impossible for him to form the sort of Michael Schumacher-like bond with the team that he'd envisaged. Louis Camilleri and Mattia Binotto were much more in tune with him in 2019, but by then there were serious question marks about Vettel's own performances after crucial errors played their part in not converting title chances in both 2017 and 18. Vettel's Ferrari opportunity initially came from di Montezemolo's dissatisfaction with Fernando Alonso. Montezemolo said in 2015 that Alonso's persistent complaining and suggestions that he would be winning regularly if he was driving a Mercedes was demotivating for Ferrari, leading to their abrupt split at the end of 2014. Vettel had long been endorsed by Michael Schumacher as someone Ferrari should try to sign, so when a performance clause in his Red Bull contract made him available for 2015, Ferrari swooped. If Vettel could have joined on the sort of foundations that Schumacher had enjoyed at Ferrari, it might have worked. No, we're not talking about talent here. In Schumacher's time, Jean Todt kept management away from Ferrari's Formula 1 team. When Ross Brawn joined a year later, Todt, Brawn and Schumacher made a pact with each other. They formed a force field that would not allow them to be picked off individually in the political environment of Ferrari. If corporate management had an issue with any one of them, then it had an issue with them all. It worked, leading to 5 years of record-breaking dominance at the start of the 2000s. It wasn't like that when Vettel joined. Todt and Brawn were long gone, and in their place were loyal, homegrown lieutenants, good people but not empowered. There was an inbuilt ceiling to their responsibilities, and senior management was back calling the shots. Before Vettel had even sat in a Ferrari, Marco Mattiacci, who had negotiated his contract, was dismissed as team principal after just 8 months in the job, and then di Montezemolo was forced out of the corporate chair by Marchionne.
It's a question of timing. Things converged, you make the call and life moves on. It was going to happen sooner or later.
This was not the sort of tight, structured foundation needed to build a great F1 team upon, where trust and stability are key. Marchionne was strict and installed Arrivabene, who actioned the wishes of his boss to the letter with no argument. There could not have been a less well-suited collective persona to the intelligent, reflective and independent Vettel. Vettel continued trying to get the team working around him the way he felt he needed, and the way Red Bull had done it with so much success. In response, the message from Arrivabene in public was that the driver should concentrate on driving the car, not on running the team. Vettel was privately seething about that. That was the moment when it became clear to him that this wasn't the team he'd been sold and never would be. Despite Alonso's time at Ferrari ending in disappointment, the team still had a very capable technical core, and it could still produce a great car. The 2015 car was good enough to grab the odd victory, but it was the aggressively conceived 2017 machine that really underlined how Ferrari was becoming technically braver. The SF70H for the new regulations was a highly influential design, pioneering the side pod trend that even Mercedes has finally followed with its 2020 car. Ferrari lost out to Mercedes only through lacking the ultimate qualifying engine modes, but it was a title contender once again. But Vettel couldn't keep the pressure from occasionally coming through in his driving. Being in a title contending car against the well-oiled, fantastically integrated, stable and happy Mercedes-Lewis Hamilton combination, and trying to fight that from a more volatile, less trusting environment was just too much. Vettel's start line error in Singapore 2017 that took both Ferraris out, and his unbalanced reaction to a perceived trick from Hamilton behind the safety car in Baku earlier that year were both emblematic of that. Vettel and Ferrari ultimately never quite believed in each other. The 2018 car was even better. Whereas the 17 car could have been a title winner, its successor should have been. Poor detail reliability and Vettel's own errors, most glaringly crashing out of the lead in Hockenheim, prevented it. The pressure upon Ferrari to deliver meant ultimately Vettel was never going to be granted forgiveness for those errors, even though the team made plenty of its own. And at a deeper level than actual errors, Ferrari couldn't create the sort of environment that would get the most out of both sides to form a formidable partnership with Vettel. The arrival of Charles Leclerc last year was the beginning of the end for Vettel at Ferrari. It removed his in-team #1 status, and that wasn't a position that would get the best from him. Although the death of Marchionni and the dismissal of Arriva Bene brought a much more human feel to the team in 2019 under Binotto's leadership, the car simply wasn't as good, and Vettel's position was undermined by the recruitment of Leclerc. Vettel was no longer #1, with an undemanding Kimi Raikkonen playing the supporting role. The gifted, ambitious, tough Leclerc, with no historical team baggage, came in and took the impetus from Vettel, who raged against that and impressively came back at Leclerc in the latter part of the season. But the die was cast. Leclerc signed a new long-term contract over the winter, signalling once and for all that he was Ferrari's future. If Vettel wanted to stay beyond his current contract, it would be in the former Raikkonen role. Ultimately, he didn't wish to accept that. Ferrari wore Vettel down over many years and in many different ways. His crashing out of the lead at a wet Hockenheim in 2018, banging the steering wheel in frustration, choking back tears over the radio, and his tortured walk across the gravel trap will forever be how his time there will be remembered. How would you sum up Vettel's time at Ferrari? Did he crumble under the pressure of representing the prancing horse, or did Ferrari fail to wrap itself around him in the same way it did with Schumacher? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel.